Hey everyone, Sweet Johnny Cage here. Today I'm very excited to show you a new game called Mortal Shell. This game is currently in closed beta. I was lucky enough to get a key from the publisher Playstack, and this game is wonderful, so I'm very excited to show it to you. It is developed by a studio called Cold Symmetry. This is a small studio. As of an article published this past April, it was about 15 people. So small team that is developing this third-person action RPG. Let's get it right out of the way. This is a Souls-like sort of game. It is very dark. It is very punishing. The combat has a lot of weight. It is tough, but it's very, very good. So the way this video is going to work is instead of doing like a 5-minute review or something, I want to show you the entire demo, but taken from a few different perspectives. So there's going to be a lot of long segments, but I'm going to change characters, actual save files. Some are beefier than others. I'm not going to waste too much time showing you how many times I died. The demo took me about, say, 2.5 hours to complete. The combat does take a little while to get used to, but we're just going to get right into it. So starting off, you are just this being. You wake up in this sort of limbo nexus sort of thing, and then this is your tutorial area. So as we progress through this foggy, damp, it almost looks like a broken down castle that saw a lot of war or something. As we make our way through here, we're going to learn some key abilities. So the first one we learn is called Harden, and this is Mortal Shell's block ability. So what you can do is you can sort of turn your body into stone, and that will block one attack. So this tutorial sort of wraith that we have to fight in a couple different areas, we just have to harden twice and then he'll go away. And then once you do that, you can walk over to this statue and pick up your first weapon, which is the Hallowed sword. And luckily, as we'll see later on in the beta demo, we can actually upgrade this sword in a couple different ways, which is pretty exciting. And actually, right after we get out of this tutorial area, we're going to gain an ability with this sword. So each weapon has its own ability that you can get either via upgrades or it just is on the weapon at the start. So we now have the Hallowed sword, and now we can start doing some combat tutorials. So there are some items hidden about in this area, and there is a boss at the end of this area called HARROS, which is just sort of hardened spelled differently. They're just letters mixed around. So you can kill him, and he does drop. I think it's an item worth 15 glimpses, but I'm not able to kill him because you have no abilities. It's very similar to Demon Souls fighting Vanguard for the first time. This is a tutorial area. You cannot come back here, so it's sort of either kill him or don't, and you can never come back here. Luckily, though, this demo does have New Game Plus, but when you start New Game Plus, you start at the beginning of the actual gameplay area and not the demo area, or the trial area, I should say. So in this next combat trial, we have to harden while attacking, which is a bit of a key ability that we have to get used to. So you just press R1 for light swing, and then as you are attacking, you just hold L2 to harden, and you can sort of not necessarily cancel your animation because it still happens when you come out of the hardened state, but it does allow you to kind of recover from maybe hitting R1 or right bumper, your main attack ability, or even R2, actually. I'm pretty sure that works for the heavy, but it just prevents you from exposing yourself too much. So if you've swung and you want to sort of defend very quickly, you can harden mid-swing. That's sort of the purpose of that. We've picked up a mortal token here, and this is a consumable item that we only have a couple of, but it makes it so on our next harden, any damage that would be dealt to us heals us instead. So we're going to come up to HARROS here pretty quickly. We're just going to find the last couple items in this area. And this next section is teaching us how to sprint or use a running attack. So your weapons have running attacks, and you could hold circle and then press R2 as you're running to do one of those. It's sort of like a lunge attack. But there's an extra item hidden around here. This is like my third or fourth run through the game that you're seeing now, so I'm very used to the combat. I tried my best to bring down HARROS, but I just couldn't do it. It takes a long time to kill him because you barely do any damage. But here he is. This is a boss. You'll notice there's no music, and I'm not sure if that's just for the purpose of this demo, or if there will not be music for him because he's, I guess, technically not like a story boss or something. There's another secret boss that we're going to fight in a little while that also does not have music, but the actual, I guess you'd call it true boss, of the demo does have music. So Hadern just attacks us just like the other Wraiths did, except he has a lot more health, does quite a bit more damage, and he's just a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive. So eventually, you know, if you can't kill him, you'll die, and then he deals a killing blow to us, which doesn't actually kill us. It recovers a little bit of health, and I think that's a little bit of like a cheat that the developers are using to kind of trigger this cutscene without actually having us die. But once you die or lose to Hadern, this crazy rockworm eel shark thing dives into the water, and then you accept it, and it leaves. You leave this place. It's crazy. So we have a quick loading screen here. I'm going to cut all these out, but after the crazy fish takes us away, we wake up in an area that we will soon know as Fulgrim Outskirts. So we have an unknown shell in front of us, and interestingly enough, you could actually skip it. I was just testing that for myself. We're not going to skip it for the purposes of this playthrough, but this is your first shell, and this is the namesake of the game is Mortal Shell. So what these shells are, from a story perspective, we'll find out in a little while. I do want to cover that, but basically these shells are different, if you want to call them classes, that you can change whenever you want. So this first one we have, we will find out his name later, and there's a reason I'm not saying it now. I want to really kind of dive in or do a quick dive on how the story works and how the lore works with this game. But this guy's a knight, and when we inhabit the knight, we get a tarnished seal. And using this tarnished seal, by pressing L1, we're able to parry attacks. Now what we will learn next is that this rune has a seal infusion called Healing. And whenever we have enough resolve, which is not a consumable, but a meter that we have to build, whenever we have enough resolve, at least one stock of it, we're able to do a riposte. So you can parry whenever you want, but you cannot riposte until you have at least one stock of the gold or yellow meter that you see above my red health bar in the bottom left corner right now. So in addition to that, we can also spend 2 resolved to do a weapon ability by pressing L1 and R1 at the same time. So that costs 2 resolve. It's more or less a one-hit kill on any lesser enemy. So we're going to use it sparingly. It's really the only time you're going to see me use it. But from here, we're just going to venture right on through. And one of the first items that you pick up right here is a simple lute. And this is a little lute guitar that you can sit down and play. And you'll notice that there are, I think, 10 diamonds here on that item description. And every time you play it, you increase your familiarity. And this causes whatever item or consumable to be more proficient. So if it's food, it'll heal more. If it's the lute, the purpose of this guitar is to lure enemies to you. But what's interesting is if you play it all 10 times, you will fully complete the song and become better at the lute. So it's just this interesting little Easter egg. It's not a very long song. It's only like 6 or 7 seconds, but it's just interesting that that's a detail. So with the lute out of the way, we're going to proceed to a secret boss that is hidden behind these branches that we can break. We can crawl through this little tunnel here. And I'm actually going to make a cut because this boss thrashed me several times before I can get a clean attempt. So this boss is a higher level version of an enemy that we're going to fight a little bit later, the ghouls. And this guy's name is Ven Noctavagu. I tried looking up if that meant anything in Latin. Obviously, Noct means night, but I don't think Noctavagu is a real word. So, cool name. So you'll notice that the rune on my back glows. And what this means is that the next, or the incoming attack cannot be parried. You can still harden to block it, but you cannot parry it. If you do try to parry it, one of two things will happen. Either you're going to take the hit, or depending on what attack it is, the boss or the enemy will just sort of bounce off of you. But as you saw there, that is an actual parry. So you get this flashy animation, but I did not have at least one stock of resolve, so I didn't get the riposte, but that time I did. And the riposte attack heals you, and that is the main healing method, at least in this demo, is riposting. So you want to make sure you practice your parry timing because it's your bread and butter. You can stuff the attacks that, or sometimes stuff the attacks that normally would be unparryable, so you got to pay attention to that rune on your back. I think they do a great job of signifying when that thing is glowing and when the next attack is not parryable. So just like that, we just dodge, and we go in for a 3-hit combo. So This boss is completely optional. As you can see there, I messed up the parry. Not great. I am now poisoned, but I got that parry. I got that riposte because I had one stock. And now we're just going to finish off the boss here in a couple seconds. So we got another riposte. We're going to heal up again. I have no more stocks of resolve, so if I do another parry, I will not get the riposte. And this boss here is, you know, he drops some great items, some good upgrades. He drops 2 glimpses, which is great, and I'll explain glimpses in a little bit. Then he drops an unknown effigy, as well as a glimpse of affection. So, in the bottom right-hand corner, we have Tar, which is the 427, and then we have glimpses, which is the 3. And to put these in familiar terms, if you've played Bloodborne, this is the same as Blood Echoes and Insight, but there is a unique mechanic, or a unique system behind glimpses. So Tar is our souls, or our Blood Echoes, but the glimpses are attached to these shells. So we will pick up a second shell in a little while through the demo, but the glimpses, or the insight, or the soft humanity, whatever you want to call it, is always saved to the shell. So it is not transferable, at least not yet. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so as you saw there, I ran past what looked like a bear trap right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kite this big dude, who's an armored fanatic. I'm going to kite him into the bear trap, because these environmental traps can also be triggered by enemies, as you just saw there. So we do have a melee fanatic behind him, so we want to try to get out of the way real quick. The armored fanatic's going to do 2 big overhead slashes, and then we're going to do our best to push him into the bear trap. I somehow evaded it myself and got out of there. But as you can see, my rune was glowing, you know, pretty serious, so I almost died there. But we picked up another unknown effigy, and I'll describe those in a little bit. This first area, the Fulgrim outskirts, this area is just teaching you about combat. There's not a lot of secrets here, although I will show you the secret that I discovered that definitely should not be allowed to be discovered in the demo. It's a glitch way, but I think it's funny enough to show you. We're just going to clear out these bandit camps or these fanatic camps, do our best to practice the combat, heal up using the ripostes, and just make our way through. There are treasure chests, which you will see in a second. So there's a glowing treasure just right on the floor here. This is inferior moonshine, a bit of alcohol, and we can kick the hell out of this chest. We get a baguette, scripture of repent, and superior moonshine. So the scriptures are sort of like blessings in a way. They can either buff you or give you some sort of benefit, such as, you know, healing after hardening, things like that. We want to clear out these next 2 armored fanatics, and we're just going to do the same process. We're going to keep kiting them into the bear traps. It's a slow and steady process, but these guys deal a lot of damage, so this is the way I prefer to do it. One thing that I will say is this game has quite a bit of options on PC. You'll see the health meter is actually on the reticule for each enemy. And this is, believe it or not, something you can change. So the health indicator, you can make it so it's always on when you're targeting an enemy, or only after you've done damage. So there's some options there. And there's pretty robust graphic options, a lot of settings to mess with. There's actually a couple of filters. There's a film grain filter, as well as like a retro mode filter. Retro mode, I think, would be a challenge run, being honest. I don't believe I showcase it in these videos, but film grain is pretty interesting too. All right, so this guy's kind of stuck behind these gravestones, and the gravestones have weird physics, which we will explore in a few minutes. But we're just going to take care of this guy, and you can see these little frogs hopping around, and one of these frogs is bigger than the rest. I'm not sure if you've spotted him yet, but we will encounter him soon enough. We're going to bring this guy into the bear trap one last time, and then we're going to make our way to a vendor who is up the hill and to the left. Alright, so we're going to do our best to cut this guy down to size. I don't use hardening much now that I'm noticing, at least not in this area. I prefer to rely on parrying only because it really is the only way to heal outside of, you know, random bits of food that you pick up. And food heals similar to The Witcher, where it's over time. So if you play the Witcher series, you should be familiar with that. Alright, so the vendor is just through this stone archway. And this guy's actually pretty funny. And for you cat lovers out there, he has a cat that you can pet. So it's just on the table. We'll get to that in a second. But this vendor is actually pretty interesting because As you can see, I am inhabiting a shell of this knight. But if I were to speak with this vendor without a shell, just that naked original body, he speaks differently to you, which I don't have footage of, unfortunately. But try it out for yourself, see what he says. All right, so we're going to talk to the vendor here. And this guy, the only thing you really need to buy from him is a weapon upgrade material. Everything else he sells can be picked up. So there's not, you're just going to spend 500 tar with this guy to buy an upgrade. I think it's 500. It might be 800, but we'll see here in a second.
Gentlemen, certainly not one of those boorish fanatics. Welcome then. I'll warp some tea. In the meantime, why not take a look at my wares? Surely there's something you'll fancy amongst my collection.
Okay, so we're going to spend 500 tar on the quenching acid. This is a really good upgrade material. Everything else we're going to get either from a drop or out of a chest later on. Alright, so with all that out of the way, we no longer need to speak with Vlas. We can leave. So we'll do that, and then we'll start making our way to the other side of the forest. So we have the quenching acid. But before we make our way to the other side of the forest or the woods here, you'll notice up these stairs, you can see a shiny green bauble in the tall grass there. And this is that item that I was telling you before that I don't think you're supposed to even be able to access in this demo, but I figured out a way to do it, and it's using the weird physics on the gravestones. So we're going to take a minute here, and I'm going to show you how to do this, just in case you want to get it for yourself. But you want to get yourself stuck on this quarter of a gravestone right here, and then you want to dash over to the right and try to move up the hill a bit and get yourself stuck between the first two gravestones there. And then we are going to try to dash up this set of gravestones. So you want to get yourself stuck between those two that you saw me do there. And then we're just going to keep mashing circle, or I think it's B on Xbox or whatever it is on the PC controls. And then we can eventually flip on over to here. So we're going to pick up an unknown effigy, and then we're going to read this stone tablet here. And there are hidden stone tablets or hidden inscriptions on many walls. Fextra Life earlier today uploaded a video showing where a bunch of them are. There may be more hidden. None of them have any sort of prompts, but there are hidden etchings. And one of them is actually near where we fought Ven Noctavagu. It's to the right of his tunnel entrance. So some of them have just some lore inscriptions. That one happened to be a recipe. I'm interested to see how this changes in the full game, and interested to see how you're actually supposed to get here. But keep in mind that we picked up one of those effigies. It is unknown for right now, and pretty soon we're going to find out why. But first, we're going to clear out the rest of the forest. So we're going to head over to the left, to the opposite side of where we were. And then there are some ranged fanatics in this area here. You probably just heard one of their little slingshots or wrist rockets start flying our way. So we need to cut down the melee ones. Yeah, they're shooting rocks at us. So we need to cut down the melee ones as quickly as possible while avoiding the ranged bolts or the ranged rocks, whatever it is they're shooting at us. So this one falls, and then we need to do our best to aggro the ranged one, but there's a melee one hidden to the right here. So we're going to deal some damage to this guy and then quickly get out of here. There is another ranged one all the way in the back, so we got to try to avoid him. Okay, so we're going to use a mushroom here, or welt cap, and you'll notice just above my health bar there is a red welt cap icon that is slowly ticking down a timer, and it's healing me over time. So you got to be very mindful of that. There, outside of riposting, there doesn't seem to be any instant big heals, at least in the demo. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that, truth be told. It makes it so you really have to master the combat, but it becomes a little unforgiving at times, especially in the next area, which is really the main area of the demo that you're going to be spending the bulk of your time in. All right, but with all those enemies down, I'm going to break open some roots to our left here. And then there's a hidden treasure beneath here. All right, so we're going to get the unguent tar, or unguent, not exactly sure how you say that. And this is a consumable version of tar, so basically some of them are worth 50, some of them are worth 100, a couple of them are worth 500 or 800. But this is a quick way to level up in case you've lost your tar, because Very similar to games of this genre, when you die, your currency dies along with you. And you have to go find your shell in order to get it back. Otherwise, you can use an effigy to automatically get it back without having to go venture into whatever dungeon you were in to go get it. So that's one of the purposes of the effigies, is to recover that shell and your tar from the shells. All right, so that is a tar spore. That is a mushroom that automatically inflicts poison on us. So unless there is a specific reason that you want to go unshelled, I don't recommend using them. All right, so now that we have the woods almost completely cleared out, we're back at these frogs, and there is a big toad right in the center of your screen. Now he's to the right. You can see his little neck or mouth kind of breathing. So what I'm trying to do here is I have a feeling that this frog has something to do with a locked chest down here. So there is a toad statue, or I think this is a toad statue, that says chest is locked. And it's unclear to me if it's just telling us, hey, there's a chest under these roots, but that doesn't seem likely. So I have a feeling that this toad has something to do with that chest is locked toad statue. Because as soon as this toad hits us, it explodes into a poison mist. So I haven't actually been able to just kill it myself because it always hits me before I can hit it, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, as you see, it hits you and then it explodes into poisonous gas and nothing happens. So if you have figured out how to open this thing, please leave me a comment. I would love to know. But with the Fulgrim outskirts out of the way, it is time to head into the abandoned chamber. And this is where we are going to spend the next half of the demo. So this woman right here, this is Sester Janessa. We're going to wake her up. She's going to give us a bit of a, not exactly a lore dump. She doesn't exactly talk in riddles, but it's all very vague. It's just sort of world building. And she will act as our checkpoint. So you can speak with her, you can level up your shells, and then she will also reset. If you take a sip of the divine tar, it will reset all the enemies, heal you to full, recover your shell, and then you can sort of go on adventuring again. So she's going to ask us if we want to sip the divine tar. Of course, we're going to say yes. And this is the upgrade screen for our shells. So we're going to do the first upgrade, which is Seek Name, and then we're going to get a lore dump of exactly who this shell is. HARROS the Vassal.
Shunned by the devout, their allegiances lie to those who offer tar, or spirits. They entertain themselves with drunken antics or violent cruelties. They know better than to attack us. But they followed us at a distance, hoping for scraps.
So once we get the voiceover of HARROS the Vassal, we can then select an upgrade if we have enough tar and enough glimpses. So like I said, the glimpses attached to the shells themselves. It's not just a constant currency that you carry with you all the time. And each shell has different upgrades. So for HARROS, it's very focused on hardening, very focused on melee combat, and many of them are still locked. But the accretion of yearning, of strength, those are all the same throughout the shells, but what they do is different. And we now have a named effigy. So some of those unknown effigies are now known as the effigy of HARROS. And we're going to get another shell here in just a minute, and learning that shell's name will change the names of the effigies. But we have a third one that we found up on that glitched hill there that we had to climb up the gravestones, and that shell is not in this demo. We have an anvil here. This is to upgrade our weapons, and we purchased the quenching acid from Vlas earlier, so we're going to go ahead and use that and increase our weapon damage. And there's another shell on the ground here, as well as a weapon just below this torch that is extremely hard to see, and I missed it in my first 4 playthroughs of this demo, and it was actually somebody on the official Mortal Shell Discord that told me there's another weapon, so I had no idea. But I'll showcase that weapon here in a minute. So this next shell is Teal the Acolyte. We will learn his name in a moment. This guy has a really cool ability, which I'm effectively calling a Shadow Step. It's similar to Old Hunter's Bone in Bloodborne, where your dash causes you to disappear for a brief second. So we have inhabited the unknown shell. So let's go speak to Janessa one more time in order to find out just who this person is, and she has a lot of interesting things to say.
You wear a familiar face, or should I say, a distinct lack thereof. Where did you find him, family? Do not answer. Just come closer. It's a simple pleasure to glimpse my beloved. Even if he's truly gone, some part of him remains with you. A small consolation, but I shall accept this mercy. Would it please your withered lips to taste my gifts once again? Yes, slowly now.
They foretold a truth more terrifying than any other. Those who glimpse it behold no monster other than an utter lack of meaning. The visage of a razor-thin line between existence and non-existence, and nothing in between.
Now that we have learned this shell's name, we can start looking at his upgrades. So Teal the Acolyte focuses again on melee combat, but sometimes with an empowered riposte, he'll emit a poison cloud. This is a double-edged sword. Sometimes that can poison you. Sometimes he has a 20% chance of, instead of losing health upon getting hits, he loses stamina instead. So it encourages you to play aggressively with Teal if you choose these upgrades. So the weapon that I wanted to show you here is the hammer and chisel. So it's in a really hard to find place. It's under this torch, but after you get it, it no longer appears there. So we have the hammer and chisel. We will go to the anvil and upgrade this using an item that we actually get later on. This is a clip of a playthrough that I had already done. I found the hammer and chisel so late that I already had the upgrade material from further on in the dungeon. So we're going to apply the perfume sensor, and then this will give us the ability for the hammer and chisel, which is the L1R1 ability. Hammer and chisel perfume sensor. I'm not really sure if they're going to change the name of this. It seems a little weird, but it's a really, really cool ability that I will show you here in a moment. So with everything upgraded, we can start to progress. And as you can see there, if we were to pick up any more upgrade materials, we can just dump them into the weapon. So, adventuring into the abandoned chamber, we find these ghouls again, just like that first optional boss we fought. And we're going to just start hammering and chiseling away these guys. As you can see, I emitted a poison cloud, but it poisoned me. So it's a little unclear why that's exactly happening. It seems to always happen off of a chisel hit and not a hammer hit. So I don't really know why that happens. Alright, so we made another cut there because I died a whole bunch. These guys are called Tormented Aberrations, and if you aggro them from range, they will pull swords out of their body and throw them at you. And just before death, they will detach their heads and throw their head at you, but you can just harden, block that hit, and then their corpse emits a poison gas. So you just gotta wait for that to pass. Additionally, you can kill them before they actually successfully rip their head off, and then you can prevent that whole poison cloud mess as well as them throwing their head. But you do have to be fast about it. Alright, so we are getting eaten by these ghouls. They move very quickly if you're not careful. As you can see, we have successfully poisoned this guy. Likely from a chisel hit. He died from the poison tick. We're going to keep hammering away at this ghoul. If you stay in that cloud too long, you can get poisoned. Just got hit by a flying sword there. He started to take one out, but now that we're close, he's going to have melee abilities. We're going to use that L1R1 right here. We're just going to hit him with like 1,000 daggers. He's going to try to rip his head off. We're going to harden, block that, and get out of the way of the poison mist. So the perfume sensor is actually just behind us. In this clip, I don't actually go through this crawl space. There's a crawl space to our right from where we're standing, and the perfume sensor is in there in case you're looking for it. So we're going to keep venturing on. We are going to die eventually, but we're just going to keep going until that happens. We're going to keep killing some ghouls. As you can see, poison cloud came out. I don't exactly know where it comes from. It seems like it's always from the chisel. It's a little unclear. There's another ghoul hiding behind here. And if you walk in front of this guy, he's going to jump you real quick. So you got to be very, very careful. There's another aberration here, so we're going to parry him. We didn't have enough resolve, so we got to parry him one more time to get the heal off. Do that right here. And we get some restorative health, but as you noticed, we released a poison cloud on the riposte and poisoned ourselves. And it's a pretty aggressive poison, so I'm wondering if that's going to be fixed in the full game where your own poison can't poison you. Hopefully, I don't know. But we died to a stalker, so we're going to switch back to another playthrough with HARROS the VASSAL. And we're going to make our way through the dungeon one more time. And what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get another upgrade material. This way we can get the final upgrade for our sword, and then we will actually head towards the finish line of this dungeon. So we're going to take out these ghouls real quick. The poison that these ghouls do is quite slow. I'm not really sure why your own poison is so much more aggressive on you. Never made a lot of sense to me, but hopefully it'll be changed in the later game. Because it feels like if you riposte and a poison cloud comes out, you have no choice but to sit in it, you know what I mean? It's weird. So we'll take out this aberration. We'll miss the harden, so we will take that poison. But anytime you pick up your own shell, you get a full heal, but it does not, unfortunately, get rid of any poison. So you can keep chopping down these ghouls. We just narrowly dodged that flying knife, which is always fun to do. Alright, so we'll kill this ghoul, and then we'll go to the next aberration and make our way to kill him. This character is fairly upgraded, I will say. That's why I'm not taking nearly as much damage as I did before. So we're going to eat a mushroom to try to heal up some health. This guy's going to remove a sword from his own chest. Pretty sick. These enemies are very evil looking, I will say. They look like something out of Hellraiser sometimes. These swords sticking out of them. I'm really looking forward to the new areas of the game. And their enemies. So you see there, he throws his head at us. Not too kind. But we're going to head back down this passageway, kill a couple ghouls, a couple aberrations. And we'll do our best to kill the stalker that killed us before. We're going to get an upgrade material that's sitting behind him. So luckily the mushrooms heal up a little bit more than the poison ticks away. So if you ever find yourself running low on HP and you're poisoned, just eat a mushroom to try to heal that back up. So we're going to wait for this aberration to slowly stalk over to us. This is a nice time to kind of admire the graphics. I was playing this in 4K, as this video is, and it just looks gorgeous. Lighting is really good. The only thing I wish was a bit better was the camera. Sometimes when your back is up against a wall and an enemy's wailing on you, you can't even tell what's going on. So hopefully that gets a little bit better for future demos or even the full release. That's definitely a sticking point for me, is the camera. We're going to actually push this guy off the edge here. So there are no, free backstabs or anything. Yeah, see, this is where the camera gets very weird right here. I can't actually move out of this position, so I have to wait for the ghoul to hit me out. And luckily he does, otherwise I would have been totally stuck there. So we get a nice first-person punch to the face, but that knocks us out of position so we can continue our assault on the ghoul, cut him down to size, and then we'll make our way further down to the stalker. Alright, so this is the same guy that we died to before, but again, it's on a different character, that's why our shell is not there. So, start cutting this guy up. 3 heads, he's almost at half HP, so, clearly this character's a bit stronger than the other one was. He is very deadly, though. That double spin attack is really, really rough. So we harden, And unfortunately, we get our shell knocked out of us. So we're going to recover that really quick. Get back up to full HP. Just tank a couple hits. If you can get really good at parrying these guys, it'll go a long way. I'm just not very good at parrying them. It's kind of hard. Kick open this chest and get another quenching acid. Now we're going to make our way back to the anvil really fast and upgrade this sword, and then we will switch over to Teal and make our way to the boss. So I'm going to clear this area out here. There's a couple ghouls just waiting for us here. So luckily you can sort of line them up and just chop them down to size yourself. You know, you sort of funnel enemies through. Most enemies do leash quite far, so you can't really run away from everything. They will catch up to you, which I actually like. It makes things a bit more threatening, which I just think is better overall. Alright, so now that we have a Tara Spore, I was actually looking for the possible third shell, because at this point I had picked up that unknown effigy and I'd already beaten it several times, so I was just trying to find something that I might have missed, but unfortunately that third shell is not in the game, or at least in the demo, I should say. So I was just trying to poke around, see if I missed anything, although I actually was walking pretty far past some hidden stone carvings. So we luckily parried this stalker, and when he's parried and riposted, he just sits back down on the floor, and you can just take care of the rest of his HP. Alright, so we got another wet cap there. And then this is the boss arena, but we're not going to fight the boss just yet. First, we're going to pick up some items, and then we'll head back to the anvil. So we got a rotten food, and there was one playthrough where I stood in front of that rotten food on the shelf, and the item the item pop-up said Unknown 3. So there's definitely some unfinished labeling going on in this demo, which is, I always like to see that sort of stuff. I'm kind of the guy who sniffs out every opportunity to walk up walls and do all sorts of weird stuff. So I love seeing those little debug names. It's always fun for me. So as you can see, this area is quite small. It's just densely packed with enemies that can kill you very quickly. So you gotta spend some time farming and upgrading and just getting stronger and getting better and learning the mechanics more. You'll have an easier time. And luckily this demo does have New Game Plus, which is very nice. Alright, so now that we have upgraded one more time, we are completely out of upgrade materials. So it is now time to switch back to Teal. So we're going to talk to the Maiden in Green over here. We're going to level up one last time. We're going to get the Accretion of Resolve. This is going to reduce our harden cooldown and give us a bit of a lore entry.
Squandering their time to drink moonshine and fight over scraps. An offering of a bag of tar garnered me their quick attention. But I sensed betrayal in their eyes. I knocked one down, and the other told me all he knew. As I turned to walk away, one struck my armor with a rock. Were they mad? I could just as soon cut them down as take a piss. I looked into their hungry eyes and warned them as much.
So with that lore entry out of the way, we have mostly fully upgraded this shell for the most part. I'm not going to go too much further. We are going to pick up Teal one more time. So we'll switch back over to him. As you can see, the hammer and chisel is on the wall right here, and I had no idea at this point in this playthrough. This is a different file, different set of footage. I just can't believe I kept missing it so many times. But now we're going to upgrade Teal a whole bunch. You know, we've got 1,300 tar, 17 glimpses, so it's time to spend some money on him. Teal has some cool abilities, 20% chance to lose stamina instead of health when taking damage, a damage bonus when low on stamina. This rewards aggression. Sometimes he'll release a poison cloud, and then sometimes poison will heal him. So Teal is really your best bet going through this dungeon at this point, but unfortunately, by the time you get him, you probably have very little tar. So if you want to use him and succeed in this dungeon area, you just gotta dump a lot of time into farming him in this demo. So hopefully that's a little bit more balanced in the final release. So we have a lore entry here, and just like with HARROS, every ability gives you a lore entry. or every upgrade gives you a lore entry. I haven't upgraded everything, and not everything is unlocked, so I don't know if something special happens at the end. But with Teal upgraded as far as we want to go, we are going to now head to the boss. So, just like in other games of this ilk, we can sort of run past a lot of enemies, although they are a bit more aggressive in this game, I will say. So, this won't always work. Your pathing has to be pretty precise in order to actually get past all the enemies without taking any damage. That back kick was really luck. That could have gone sideways. Heading to the boss, which is Enslaved Grisha, we are able to parry this boss, believe it or not. So the boss will always start off with this charge bull rush attack, so you just want to position yourself behind a pillar. This way the boss hits the pillar instead of you. You can get a couple attacks off. And just like with every other enemy, sometimes your sigil will glow red. This means you just got to get out of the way, or harden at the very least. But this boss's sigil, red sigil unblockable attacks or unparryable attacks are multi-hits, so you're better off just getting out of the way. Oftentimes with these unblockable attacks, icicles will fall from the ceiling. You can see them in the distance there. Sometimes one falls just kind of right in front of you, so they can be pretty risky. There's one there. But as you can see, with a really well upgraded sword and shell, this boss is already at half HP, and we're dicing it apart. And being able to parry bosses is pretty crazy. And because of the way the healing mechanics work in this game, you really have to do that. That's really your path to success. I have seen people not parry him at all and be successful. I was not. I fought this boss for like an hour on my stream, and it just didn't go well until I started parrying him, and then he fell in like 2 attempts. So that was my method of doing it, but to each their own. So what's interesting is that in a lot of games, when you start a boss fight, the enemies that have been following you to the boss door will stay outside automatically. They will just sort of stop at an invisible wall and not follow you. That is not the case in this game. Any enemies that you leashed can fall in here, including the stalker enemies, so that can be very deadly. So just keep that in mind. You do have to kill things on your way. But I've been trying to bait out a parry attack here to end it in a flashy way. It's not going to happen, spoiler alert. Instead, I think I actually get de-shelled, and then I just got to finish it off quickly. But I was trying to parry the whole time. Yeah, there's the D-shell. So we'll recover that quickly and end the fight. But that's pretty much the demo. After you kill Enslaved Grisha, that's it. You find Sester Janessa just outside with a chest, and you have an option to restart or go to the main menu or start over. And starting over is essentially New Game Plus. So yeah, those are sort of your choices here. So with the boss down, the sort of ice cave opens up, and we can go speak to Janessa. And that's the demo. So, in closing, I really, really liked this game. The combat took a while to get used to. It felt very weighty. Something I would love to see is the parry window changed a bit. When you hold out the sigil, if you're holding it out, past the point of where the parry window is, it feels like your parry should work, but it doesn't. Instead, you're just sort of holding out the sigil and something hits you instead of hitting the sigil and giving you the parry. So I really like to see the parry window tuned up a bit, even if that means like changing the animation or doing something. The way I've been telling people to think about it, or to think about learning it, is that it's like Bloodborne parrying. You kind of just get one shot at a very specific moment, and anything after that isn't going to work. But at least in Bloodborne, the animation is clean, and it's very obvious when the bullet hits the enemy. You know what I mean? It's very obvious when those things happen. In Mortal Shell, however, the object that actually grants you a parry stays out so long and appears like it should work, but it doesn't. So that's really my one thing outside of the camera, which is always tricky in these sorts of games, is just improving the parry window. I would love to see that fine-tuned a bit, but other than that, I'm very, very excited for this game, and I hope we get a new area and another beta test soon. Mortal Shell is slated for a third quarter 2020 release, so hopefully it still comes out this year. You never know about delays with COVID and stuff. You just really never know these days. But hopefully it's still on track for Q3 2020. That's it. That is the Mortal Shell closed beta. Like I said at the beginning of this video, join the official Discord server for a chance at a beta key. Also sign up for their newsletter. They are sending out batches of keys to everybody on the newsletter, and it's basically whoever can copy and paste the code into the Epic Game Store first gets it, but that's your best way to get a code. There's currently a lore contest going on. There's a screenshot in the Discord, and the devs have said, hey, come up with a lore entry for what you think is going on in the screenshot, and the winner gets a key. So there are keys going out. I encourage you to get involved in the community. It's very welcoming. They've helped me. Like I said, they told me about the hammer and chisel. I had no idea that was even in the game, and I was about to make this video without knowing, so I'm glad I joined and started becoming part of the discussion. But that's it. If you have any questions about Mortal Shell, please leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer any questions that I can and direct you to any sort of helpful resources that you need. I don't have any keys right now to give out, so I know people leave comments on these videos looking for them. I don't have any right now. That said, that could change. The best way to find out is follow me on Twitter at SJCage, and also join my streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Sundays as well. And yeah, I guess that's it. So if you're looking for more videos from Mortal Shell or games like it, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new videos go live. And of course, if you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the blue join button below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Twitch, and as always, I'm Sweet Johnny Cage. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.